Hey everybody, welcome in. My name is Letiredd, content creator over on Twitch, and today we are reacting to another Inside Star Citizen Alpha 4.1.1 Mission Compossible. Compossible? One of those. Anyways, looking forward to this one. Really curious to see what's going to happen with 4.1.1. I haven't tested it out at all in PTU because, a little tired of the PTU. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. Okay, everybody. So, what do they have to tell us this week?
I like making missions because it's an intellectual challenge and it's a creative challenge. I like playing through the content and seeing things through a player's eyes and trying to craft an experience.
Do you think players like missions?
I hope players like missions.
I have to. I'd like missions more. They worked more often. Okay, that was easy. I'm sorry. All right, let's keep going.
In Alpha 411, we are going to be dropping about 60 new missions, and it's going to be our biggest drop since 4.0. Let's start with our big headliner, Hunt the Polaris. Hunt the Polaris is a mission where the Frontier Fighters have stolen a UEE Polaris, which was bound for Invictus, and they're trying to escape with it and get it back to Pirate. Your job is to stop them.
We can't let them get away.
In order to stop them, you are chasing them around Stanton. You have to search for them, you have to ambush them, you have to defend other ships from them as well as they continue on their path to Pyro.
When you encounter the Polaris, it won't be alone. It will have some Frontier Fighter friends as backup.
Let's get the hell out of here.
What's really cool about this mission is you don't even have to do it alone.
The Polaris quantumed away.
The UE have sent their own guys as well, and there's a hammerhead that, if you keep alive, will help keep you alive too. I think it'll be a really good test of just how strong your friends are, and yourself too.
Next, there are 12 different...
That's pretty cool to see a mission like that where you have to deal with such a big ship, its escort, and potentially protecting others along the way. I typically don't like protect quests so much, so hopefully this doesn't turn into that completely, but we'll see. But that actually looks like it could be pretty fun, and it's good to see that NPCs are going to be helping out with stuff and kind of playing a bigger role in the verse, hopefully, assuming they don't anyways.
Patrol contracts split between Headhunters and Foxwell.
Foxwell being the faction that gives you the legal version of these missions, and Headhunters will give you the illegal version.
Foxwell Enforcement, they've hit hard times, so their background checks and whoever they hire is a bit more loosey-goosey.
Headhunters are now operating.
So you all saw that, right? Let's
Loosey-goosey.
This is the result of what we had seen a few weeks ago when Jared was in a spandex suit with motion tracking on him. There's Jared. Everybody say hi to Jared. Hi, Jared. Yeah, let's just keep going. Hi, Jared.
Headhunters are now operating for the first time in Stanton. The Headhunters want you to patrol an area of space that they consider their own and make sure their interests are allowed to operate safely.
The patrol missions in 411 are a little different than our standard missions. We wanted a mission that was not linear. You will go to a point throughout space, and it will randomly generate between our pool of current objectives. Currently, there's 4 objectives that it can generate between.
What was that?
So you'll go to point number 1. It will pick between one of those 4 objectives for you to complete.
paladin?
Once you complete it, it will send you to another point in space where it will
Asgard.
generate another objective, and so on until you've completed 3 points.
Scans are showing outlaws inbound.
Objective 1 is a traditional kill all the ships that appear.
Target
That
destroyed.
doesn't really require any more explanation. Objective 2 is protect a ship that's under attack from the bad guys. Objective 3 is a new objective called Search and Destroy. And Objective 4 is what we're calling the empty objective,
Not seeing anything.
where you show up and actually nothing happens. I have to say that so people don't think it's a bug.
No, they're just covering up the bug.
Search and Destroy.
They're just covering up the bug, which is probably more the reality. It's like, we can't get it to work. Just tell them there was nothing there to begin with. It's a
It
feature.
is a new objective that we've created. We wanted an objective that was less heavy on combat.
The player will go to the location and they'll receive a certain number of areas to discover. It's up to the player to go there and ping and scan with their ship scanners and discover what's going to happen. The player may discover friendly probe, that's one of the UEEs. You're just going there to make sure it's all operational.
Everything is in order.
Or you may discover that there's a hostile one. It's been hacked by another organization and you're there to destroy it.
Seems this satellite's been hacked by outlaws. We're gonna have to take it out.
In some cases, if you destroy it, then the people who own the satellite won't be very happy with you, so they'll QT in and start attacking you.
Target destroyed.
We're hoping that if this mission goes over well, we can slowly add to that pool to make Patrol a sort of mission that will continue to expand upon until we have, say, 15 or 20 random objectives that can trigger. But really, we're only going to do that if you guys like it, so let us know how you feel.
I'm Lucas Baransko, but my students call me Gilly.
That, objectively, super cool. To finally have something to interact with in the MFDs, to have a Zoom call in space, that, super cool. Very happy with that.
Longtime players might remember Gilly from the tutorial from way back in the day. Gilly is a very experienced combat veteran. It was really good to have him in the game the first time round.
Gilly also appears in 3 new Invictus training exercises where you'll be able to be shown what a patrol mission could be like.
Prepare to engage.
This is not a tutorial, but it is a series of increasingly difficult combat scenarios.
These 3 missions are so that the player can feel like they're part of the UEE, so that they can get a taste of what it's like to be part of the organization that protects Stanton.
Congrats on completing another part of your course.
These are just here while the Invictus event is on to add a little bit more flavor.
There are also now 12 new ambush contracts, also split between Foxwell and Headhunters.
An ambush mission is where you lie in wait for your target to appear before striking them fast
They found him in LA, for sure, and they shipped him over to England.
and hard.
So it's a mission for.
No, for tactical masterminds. So Foxwell is giving these ambush missions because they are being paid by outside contractors to take down dangerous individuals around the Stanton and Pyro systems, which are causing trouble for their clients.
Nice. Done.
And Handhunters, well, they just ambush anyone. They want stuff.
When you get to the ambush location, you will be asked to hide inside a new high emission zone.
Which means that the enemy can't detect you when they jump in. So first there's a wave of scouts that shows up, and they're going to scan for their valuable transport to arrive on time. And since they don't detect you, they give the all clear. The target arrives, and that's the moment you jump out of the high emission zone, which will make you appear on radar, but it's too late for them to escape, and that's when you take down the cargo hauler. I'm really excited about these missions because the high mission zones will unlock further options for anyone to make really cool missions, both PvE and PvP related.
Many of these new missions have a chance to spawn an ace pilot.
Scans just picked up a ship that we've tagged as extremely dangerous.
They are either aligned with the headhunters or the UEE. You won't always know when they're going to arrive. So they will always be a sort of rogue variable inside those missions that you'll have to deal with.
Talking about their skill levels.
Oh yeah, their skills crank.
New favorite person at CIG, he has the coolest t-shirt. The coolest t-shirt.
I can't crank it any harder. That's what I'm thinking. So skilled is definitely their name.
And if you are lucky enough to be able to take him out, you can loot his corpse and he will have some considerable amount of guild scrip on him. These scrip are in-game items that you can pick up and collect. You are getting 1 scrip for the council and 1 scrip for the mercenary guild. And you can use them as currency for collector missions. He really, really wants these guild scrip.
Very cool. Also, a completely new thing that we're getting in game. I'm very excited for this. It was the only reason I had any desire to go into PTU. Still wasn't enough for me to go into PTU, but I thought it was cool. I saw some other people stream and play through PTU, and it looks very interesting. I like the idea of a physical currency, something other than just, finding these minables that are really hard to find or that you have to have a large group to get to in order to trade favors with Waldo. Sorry. And it'll be interesting to see how that's implemented in game, how people kind of fight over the script. If people will find ways to exploit it, if people will find ways to, hide it on their chest or on their belt so that even if they die, they keep it. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. That is very cool. Also, wanted to quickly touch on the ambush missions. The ambush missions are the only new type of mission we're getting. Let's be honest. There's nothing new here besides the ambush. We have already done all the types of missions that they spoke about before that. None of that was new. It was just new variations or different iterations of things we've already seen. Ambush looks interesting as something that actually kind of comes from outside the box, and the script is very interesting. I'm super curious to see how easily you can find that in game. If there's any sort of player-to-player market, that I'm sure it's going to happen. People mining script and selling it back to players in the verse. That'll be interesting to see how that all comes about. But I'm actually excited to see that.
As part of Invictus, we are adding our very first ones as a kind of scavenger hunt around the halls. We're also giving them away as mission rewards for the new combat missions. So there will be even more ways to get those new collector ships. Oh, there's also new collector ships this patch, but I don't know what they are.
I do.
Of course, it wouldn't be Invictus without visiting the Invictus halls.
This year's Invictus Launch Week returns to Area 18. As you're in the shuttle and approaching the Bevic Convention Center, you get met with the new slogan of this year's Invictus.
They do, and that was probably deliberate. If it's a merc guild, that's actually pretty cool. Imagine one day we can smelt them down and make knives or armor pieces. That would be kind of fun. Just saying. We might like that, CIG. We might. Since we can't have anything cool from Star Wars, if you guys could fill in the gap, that would be great.
As you walk out of the shuttle, we walk into the lobby and we take the elevator down. We get met with the beautiful hologram of the mighty Idris itself. As we're walking further into the halls, you'll be able to find all the new ships for this year's Invictus. We can see that this year's Invictus looks a little bit different than what we're...
Okay, so the only 2 ships we know about so far, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is the TAC and the Asgard, which we're just seeing now, right? Is there anything else that we know of yet, or are they still waiting to reveal that?
Used to. This year Invictus will not feature different daily layouts, but instead has a better, well-crafted layout for the entire duration of Invictus. We can see that there's extra care being taken in the presentation of the ships. This really shows the might of the UEE. At the entrance of the halls, we can see the rental kiosks. This is where you'll this year be able to rent the various ships. Make sure to return to these kiosks as they are on a daily/bi-daily rotation. Invictus this year is not just about ships, but it's about the way that you customize your ships, how you create your own experience with your vehicles.
The lack of access to customizing your ship. 0 UEC. I saw that. Did you all hear about the snafu with the new website and how a lot of this ship, not descriptions, the stats for ships are kind of really far off? Not really true. Some issues there. Somebody didn't input the right data.
And how you truly make your vehicles your own. So let's check out the Idris tour at Area 18 Central. As you walk and you look up, you can already see that the Idris is hanging straight above. We'll go towards the IO North Tower and take the elevators up. As we continue over the platform, we get met with the Idris itself. Please take some time to explore.
Am I the only one who's like, how is it staying there? Right? I will be there with you, Jesus. I will hold hands on the way down. No problem. For science. Space magic. Awesome. Okay, that's good enough for me. Hand wave you.
I'm super excited about Invictus this year. I think we've done something a little bit unexpected. I think the way that everything came together really clicked this year. I hope that the players will also see the care and love that we put into making this year's Invictus special.
Overall, 411 is a big suite of ship combat content. It's been a little while since we've gotten to do something like this. We've heard some of the criticism that sometimes we're FPS citizen, and we hope this goes some way to help address it.
How do you feel having this patch sit on your shoulders?
I think it's a lot of pressure, but it's also very, very motivating. There's a lot of work to do, but we know we can do it. Just got to get it done.
I'm going to vote for this guy to now be a team leader and have a bigger part in management because we need more people who are just trying to get shit done. Because, yeah, I've got thoughts, but let's finish it off.
And as you can see, this year's Invictus is going to operate just a little differently than years before. Now, in addition to the more than 60 new mission contracts being added to Alpha 411, there's also a new way to earn secondary currency for Wicklow and, in the future, his guild brethren, new ace pilots to test the mettle of our greatest flyers, and then, of course, our first tour of the Idris Peacekeeper and a more robust convention center than ever before. One that loses the rotating inventory to highlight all the ships arriving at this year's event simultaneously. There's also those new flight blades y'all have been talking about online, and even some weapon and item packs that'll let you breathe new life into existing vehicles like never before. You can learn all about that stuff on the robertsspaceindustries.com website as the event starts proper on May 15th. And then it continues to cycle through all of our manufacturers every 2 days until the end of the event. That part stays the same. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll start learning about the last 4 vehicles making their debut at this year's event next week. And then the week after. It's a 2-week thing.
Funnies? We got funnies.
1 minute later. Oh, and before I forget, the ISC team is hiring. We're looking for 2 more of the game capture folks. You know, those people that make the B-roll and stuff. You get to work in the most broken builds imaginable for like weeks before Evocati, and they're on NDA. So, and then you have to try to make unfinished stuff look great. It's legit some of the hardest work that we've got. But boy, is it cool and fun, and you get to work with some of the best people. Not me, but others. You know, you can find the listing at cloudimperiumgames.com/jobs. Hopefully it's right there at the bottom. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, that's it.
Holy shit. All right, there's lots to unpack there at the end. Okay, let's just talk about the elephant in the room right now, which is, you know, posting essentially, I didn't ever expected to see them do that. I mean, and that's, okay, so what we just saw there at the end. Okay, yeah, but we got to talk about the job ad. If I'm someone who considers themselves a professional and I'm looking for a job, that's the last thing I'm going to answer to. But what I see that, and I may be wrong, I may be harsh, I may have a old school view on this, but I don't get it. I mean, really, is it that impossible for you guys to hire that you're now resorting to ISCs and hoping that one of the fans of your game is going to want to sign up? Am I reading that wrong? I mean, really, I don't see how that's a good look for them. Like, I feel like that's a pretty terrible look. Again, that could just be me. I'm more than happy to hear anybody argue that and, you know, give me a different perspective. It is. It's the turnover is bad. The turnover is bad. They got rid of a lot of the senior staff to bring in younger staff, which is fine. That happens everywhere. It's nothing crazy there. There's one major thing that I think people don't take into account when it comes to CIG and why it's hard for them to hold on for people for more than 4 or 5 years is because normally in 4 or 5 years you release a game. And developers who have 10 years to show at a company but 0 game released, that looks bad. That just looks bad. And so it's hard for developers to then go find work and be like, well, no, I worked on this finished product. Look what it became. Yeah, people at CIG can't say they've finished a product, even those who've been there for 12 years. That's kind of insane. Okay, moving on from the job ad, which, yeah, I don't think that was a very good look. And really, that's disappointing to see. Like, really, really disappointing. And that's the kind of stuff I can't stand. And I just, yeah, I'm different when it comes to that stuff. I know most people don't think the way I do when it comes to that. And I think it's a bit of a shame because it's kind of a lack of standards, kind of a lack of class. You know, that was funny and it's amusing to see Jared do that stuff, but that's kind of a weird one. I don't know exactly how to feel about that. Anyways, okay, moving on to the video itself and what we saw about the contracts and missions coming into 4.1. Like I said, I think the ambush missions are really interesting, and I think the script is super interesting. Really happy about the script. I'm curious as to how that's going to be findable in game, if it's going to be really rare, if it's something that you'll actually be able to kind of find a little easier just by grinding out contracts and stuff like that. I would really hope so. Also, one thing I didn't mention that I think is really cool is the ace pilots. I think that's actually pretty badass. I think that's makes a lot of sense in a game like this where, especially, it's kind of a way, I think, to, how do I say this? It's a nod to the players that have spent countless hours training in this game and trying to be the best pilots they absolutely can. So I think having that is going to be really cool. I like the fact that it's kind of like on either side. They can either be working with you or against you, which would be fun, especially if you're taking the illegal side of it. Well, you're going up against one of the UEE's ace pilots, and that's no joke. If you're doing the legal side and you're going up against one of the headhunters or freedom fighters, frontier fighter, whatever they're called, you know, and helping them out, and you come up against one of the races. That's actually something I'm really looking forward to. I think that'll be a great addition to the game. But those are the only things I think are great, because all the other contracts and missions have been stuff we've seen before. I think it's also a bad look for CIG to have objectives where nothing happens. I think that's a little too much PTSD for people who have been in this community for a while and have had to deal with the fact that most of the time, for a long time, contracts haven't worked when you get there, or they bug halfway through. I think that's disappointing. I'm really interested to see how Invictus plays out in terms of like player load and how stable the experience is. I'm looking forward to jumping off the edges with you, baby Jesus. That'll be fun. For science, right? Wonder if we can just jump out of the MPUV bay underneath. That'll be cool. That being said, 60 new missions, very cool. Good to see that, but not enough yet. Good step in the right direction for space combat, because here's the thing is, I haven't been doing much space stuff at all in the last 2-3 months. Actually, since Pyro came out, most of my gameplay has been around contested zones, going to outposts, because I just found that the FPS was more enjoyable, because they clearly had put more time into that. Nope, no pistol upgrades yet, but don't worry, I've always got mine on me. Always ready to run pistols. So it's cool to see this stuff coming in. It's good to see them trying to flesh some of this stuff out, but some of it still looks pretty basic. I'm really interested in seeing the ambush. I'm really interested in seeing Hunt the Polaris. We'll call that new, but it's still, it's very similar to the, what was his name? The guy around Hurston that gave out the contract to go hunt down the Idris eventually. Eckhart security contracts. It's just a bigger, beefier Eckhart security final phase, or whatever you want to call it. So, that will be cool. It's good to see them implementing the stuff that's in game into their contracts and missions. You guys have these big, cool ships, have us go after them. We should see them more. I think it's interesting that they're trying to bring in NPCs around that. I don't think it necessarily really adds too much to the mission or itself, or the play, or the gameplay. But I think the reason why that's important is because we know that there needs to be a bigger security presence from the UEE in certain systems, and that's just non-existent right now. So hopefully this is a stepping stone for them to get to that place where they're able to have patrols, where they're able to have response teams and stuff like that. So very interesting. For some stuff, a lot of it is just kind of feels like rinse and repeat. We've just given you different variations of things that are that were already there, or that we've just kind of fleshed out a little bit more. It's good to see them kind of reorient their focus towards space combat. I think this means that we will probably see the operator modes coming in sooner than, or the new operator modes coming in sooner than later. I hope they've really taken the time to think about that one. I don't think I saw it, Zombie. I saw the thumbnail. I was at work when I saw that post. I'll have to go back and look at it. The biggest issue with this ISE is the job ad at the end. Like, wow. That's a bad look. That's kind of a bad look. The funny thing is that was recorded months ago, because he's holding the puppet, which was an episode around Pyro. He's clean shaven, which we know he hasn't been for at least a month, most likely. So I'm curious, was that something that they shot a while ago and then couldn't decide if they wanted to actually put that out, hoping to actually find people? But they didn't, and then out of desperation, because what other reasons would you have of doing that? I mean, if you're a legit company and people want to work with you, you don't have to do that stuff. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that the reason why it's a bad look is because if you're a reputable company, nobody likes EA, but everybody wants to work there for most part. They want certain jobs. There are certain companies that are like, people are just constantly applying because they want to work there. Sorry, Rockstar is probably the one I should have used. This, and so follow me here on this one, guys and gals. This makes me want to spend less money on Star Citizen, even though it looks like now is the time to support it more than ever. But I don't agree with that. And here's why, is because if they continue to fumble, because that's really more of what it is. It's fumbling along. It's not necessarily, they're not failing. They're not terrible. They're not that. But it's fumbling along and taking way too long, to get things out, to get us the things that were promised so long ago. And, again, I want to reiterate that there's, it's an unreal expectation to think that this should have been out a few years ago. And the reason why I say that is because when you go into a project thinking that you're going to have, 7 or 10 million to make your project and you end up with 70 million, well, it changes what you can do. So you have to scale up, right? Scaling up is hard in terms of how big do you scale. And I think maybe they scaled a little too big, and they've been paying the price for that ever since. And the only reason why they've gotten this far is because the community has supported them. So the reason why I don't think we should be giving them any more money is because there needs to be a clear and almost immediate shift, because there's talk of they've lost out on 20 million so far, which doesn't make sense. You can look at that over a year and say, yeah, that's how much they lost, but they can make that back up here at Invictus. Anyways, there's been less money flowing in, even though there's been what feels like more ship sales. But I think the only people buying the ships are the people who are already in. I think the amount of people coming in is seriously diminished. I think their reputation isn't getting as good as they would have hoped with Pyro's release, but at the same time, they only have themselves to blame because it's not a stable or even continuously playable experience. And yeah, I'm going to go back to it's an alpha argument, so we shouldn't expect that, but then get rid of PTU and just do it all in live. Don't even call it live. Just call it alpha build, whatever. And that'll be a more honest way of going about things. I've said it before, and I know people disagree with me, and I'm always willing to hear the criticism and the disagreement, but I still think they're getting into really dangerous waters. It's a project that's worth a ton of money. It's a project that's been going on for a very long time, and they haven't delivered on much. I do think it's rooted in reality, because they'll get called out very quickly when the financial reports come out the following year. So here's the problem with that hybrid, is if they're going to fix everything before they move on to the next thing, then the game should be released. It's not in development. So their logic has to be push forward, get things out, get things into the game functional, and continue to lay the groundwork. The problem is it's taken way too long, and if they want people to continue to support and put in money into the game, they need to give them something they can enjoy. When you spend hundreds of dollars on a ship and you can't get it out of your hangar, that's pretty frustrating. Tonic made a point earlier about Invictus and the rentals that I thought was interesting. I wish they didn't let people rent ships that are coming out. Everybody gets to fly them, and I paid money to get it. I think it makes sense for them marketing wise. You should let people fly the ship to get more money. That's crazy, Shaky. See, I had bought, $240 ship, Connie, Andromeda. There were 2 patches in the past where it would just spawn on the elevator stripped, like on cinder blocks, basically. That kind of stuff is really frustrating and unacceptable. So, sorry, to get back on point. My point at the end of the day is they will continue to treat the game a certain way unless the players say stop. At the same time, I kind of have to contradict myself, because if they truly want to get this thing done, then they need to make it a game. In order to make it a game, they got to push things out. when they push things out just to get everything into the game, it's going to break stuff. So and that's why I think for the first year I didn't really have too many problems. Of course I was bitching and whining and moaning at times like everybody else. But I understood. In the last 6 months there's been a real shift. I think maybe it was too much expectations around Pyro. But at the same time, now that I kind of look back on it, that's not realistic because we always know things are going to be bugged. Anyways, I think it's more important now than ever for them to release Squadron 42. I think this company's is going to get into some serious problems if they don't, get stuff out sooner. And yeah, exactly. Everyone's bitched about something. Whether you're a huge supporter and you're bitching about people duping and exploiting, whether you're a supporter from afar and just can't understand how people are playing this and, you're just biding your time before you jump in. There's plenty to criticize, unfortunately, and I do mean that, unfortunately, because, I've just spent the last 2 years of my life streaming this game. Not every day, not 24/7, obviously, but Star Citizen has become a big part of my daily, weekly, what I do. So I feel a certain amount of justification when I say this is not good enough. And when you see things like the website having incorrect stats and details, like that's just pure data entry. That's all that is. Just go fix it. And okay, maybe I'm wrong, and I would love to be told how I'm wrong, because again, that's not my area of expertise. However, my area of expertise is project management. And whoever's responsible for that department, you failed. Sorry to tell you. Sorry if that upsets people. But that's a failure. That kind of mistake shouldn't make its way in. You need to double check what you do. You need to be responsible for what comes on it. Sometimes it feels like people just aren't responsible within the company and things slip through the cracks. I think that's what I'm going to end it on is... No, I don't know if I would necessarily be able to do that much better of a job with that much big of a company. Look, it's really easy to sit here and criticize, but as somebody who also runs projects, I understand the challenges that you run into and the needing to pivot when things aren't working. Sometimes waiting too long to pivot is a mistake in its own. Sometimes pivoting too early is a mistake in its own. It's not easy to manage, especially when you have so many people, and there are very talented people at CIG who are all trying to accomplish things. Sometimes they may not have enough time. Sometimes they may not have the support. Sometimes people are just lazy. All right. As someone who has to keep people working, I've seen it. All right. You can all say, oh, I'm not lazy. I'm super professional. I work all the time. Bullshit. All right. Because even I get lazy. Everybody gets lazy. But the point is, when do you get lazy? You can't be lazy on the end result, is what I'm saying. The end result has to be good. If you're lazy at moments and along the way, sure, fine. But you got to make sure it's all fixed and comes together at the end. That's the job of management. If they can't do that, then that's going to be very difficult. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. I really hope CIG gets it together. I'm going to say it again. That was a bad look there at the end with the job posting, essentially. It wasn't even that cute. And I'm really disappointed in that because, yeah, it's a weird one. It really is a weird one. But again, let's, talk about the positive. Ambush missions, very cool. The chase down the Hammerhead looks very cool. The script, very cool. Super excited to see that. And I'm interested to come up against an ace pilot and see how that goes. So, all right, everybody, thank you for joining. That was my 2 cents on this week's Inside Star Citizen. I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it this far, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much, everybody.